Bit of a different daily tea today. We're in the Telegraph's fitness studio. Camilla, loving your top and leggings, and Matt Roberts, super personal trainer, joins us for this edition of the Daily Tea. We know we've had too much turkey. We know we've had too much Christmas pudding. We know we've had a little bit too much champagne. It is time for the new you. The Telegraph has been doing this amazing series, How to Get Great in just 31 days.
And of course, we're also going to be speaking about our New Year's resolutions with Dr Rangan Chaterjee, who's going to tell us how to stick to them, because if you're anything like me, you make promises to yourself early in January that by the end of January you end up breaking. So we're going to find out how fit we are for our age with Matt, and we're going to find out from Dr Rangan whether we can actually stick to some of those promises that we make ourselves as we enter a new year. Welcome to the Daily Tea with me, Camilla Tominey.
And almost certainly to be embarrassed, me, Kamal Ahmed.
So the first thing we're going to try and do, because Matt Roberts here, who has written, I think, 13 books on health and fitness, you've done this amazing article for the Telegraph where basically you're putting readers through their paces, because there is a special test you can do to find out how fit you are for your age. Should we just say our ages first of all? Kamal, how old are you?
I am. How old do you think I am, Camilla?
I thought you were 55 earlier.
Yeah, not too far off. I'm actually 57. I was hoping you were going to say, I thought you were 45, but
well,
you didn't.
Well, I know you're about a decade older than me. I spent most of last year thinking I was 44. I think I'm actually 46. I was born in 1978. How old am I? Yeah, I think I'm 46.
46.
Yeah.
Matt, how old are you, if you don't
51.
mind?
Matt,
Looking
I'm loving
good on
your,
it.
Matt,
Looking
I'm loving
good on
your
it.
posture. You're 51. That is,
51.
you look irritatingly
This
brilliant.
takes, well, it
for
takes
51.
input, it takes time, it takes effort, and this is the whole point about these tests that we're going to do with you guys as well, is that you can't just rest on your laurels. You've got to be putting the work in and put the time
not.
in. Otherwise, we get to a point where things start to just go the wrong direction physically and mentally as well. So this all helps us to feel and look physically younger and be energized and be vital, and that's why we're here.
Okay.
Now,
so,
now, Camilla, just before we start, can I share my only experience with a personal trainer? At the age of 40,
a bad story, isn't it?
It is going to be a bad story. At the age of 40, I thought, new me, gave up smoking, started running, got a personal trainer. I bought 10 sessions with a personal trainer at a very posh gym on the River Thames in central London. I went to the first one, being quite competitive. I overextended myself, threw up in the corner of the gym with lots of young people watching me. What's that old bloke doing, crouched in the corner by the dumbbells, chucking up his guts?
Yeah.
I left the gym without getting changed or washing or anything. I was so embarrassed. I never went back. So there are still 9 chances to have a physical trainer for 1 hour at this posh gym. Kamal Ahmed never returned.
Wow.
So this is the first time.
Lost.
I'm getting a bit of PTSD.
Lost.
The
Exactly.
first time I've
Just a
seen a
cold sweat
personal
coming
trainer
up.
since that chucking up incident.
Well, I think it's important to say, it's a good point, is that you can go into any gym setting and work with someone, either on your own or with a trainer, and you can go in there and get PTSD at the basis they just push you like crazy and do too much, and you push yourself too hard maybe as well. It is a case of, if you are new to this stuff, pacing. It's a long game. This is not going to be a thing that's change in 6 weeks. It's a thing of changing over the course of a year and a couple of years, and it's a lifetime thing. So we can make some good assumptions where you might be, do some tests on you as well, see where you are. But all training should be progressive, gradual, gradual, gradual. It's all incremental change. Otherwise, we just get either mentally bored of it, it makes us physically sick, brings you down a cold sweat, or you just lose the will to do the whole thing. It's got to be things you can achieve, you can do, and stick to for the long duration, and then you get better results.
See, Matt, I wish I'd had you as my sagely guru before I went into that gym. Well, it would have helped, because actually
never too late.
It put me off. It put me off.
It does put you off. It does put you off enormously. That's why we've got to start with testing. We do in my clubs, we do testing on blood testing, we do hormone testing, we do all sorts of stuff. So we get to know the individuals phenomenally well, and then we dive in. And these tests we're doing today, these are a few of the things that we do. These are all about really finding out whether or not you have the strength, the agility, the focus, the core development that you need to ensure that when you're, as we are all aging, you're able to maintain youthfulness and vitality. You aren't going to have a trip and a fall, which is going to hurt you. That's going to catch you instead. So a few simple tests, some challenging, some quite tough, don't be nervous. And we'll see what you can do. But it's where everyone should be going from the start. It's finding out where you are and then grow from that point onwards.
Just for anyone listening to this and not watching on YouTube, so Kamal and I are standing either side of Matt on Mats.
Oh,
We're
mats.
on mats. We
Yeah.
are in leisure wear. And we are slightly nervous. Matt, what's the first test then?
So the first test is one of my little favourites. This is the standing up from a sitting down position
Oh,
test.
what, we're doing that one first?
So I'll start with the good stuff, just for the full embarrassment as soon as possible, I think. So we're going to assume position down the floor. Now, should we start with you, Camilla?
Well,
so why not?
goodness,
We'll
we're
start
gonna
on
watch
this
each
side.
other.
Yeah, we
Can
are.
I just make a confession, right? I have never been very good at crossing my legs. I can't ever get them down. So I'm not very good at this because
Okay.
I
Well,
find
let's
it quite
take a little
difficult.
look. So we're going to have a
Oh
look
my
at what
gosh.
you do. So for those listening, what we're trying to do here is actually start from a sitting position as Camilla currently is, with
Yes.
the legs crossed and feet on the ground.
Yes.
The idea of this little game is to stand up without putting your hands down on the floor. So we'll give you a
Right.
first little push at this one. For those watching, this is good comedy as well, so this is great.
But why can't
So
I
say
just go
that.
like that? I just go like
Oh,
that.
beautiful.
Look at that.
Oh, is that
Look
it?
at that. That was
I
very
thought,
good.
I thought it was meant to be like a rocking forward, but you can just do that.
Well, you can do it if you like. Now, what you're doing there, what's good for you, is your hip mobility to get to the point where your feet can go out and then push upwards. Shows you have good hip mobility and strength.
Ooh, tick
So
Fiji.
you're in good shape with
Oh,
that.
that's
So that's
good.
great.
That's
All right.
cool.
Okay.
Okay.
So next.
Old man next.
So let's try that again. So from you,
Okay.
same position to start. You can do whatever you
Okay.
like to get. So you can,
And then
whatever
just
method you
stand
like.
up.
Just stand up from there. There you go. Pretty good.
Not
Pretty
bad.
good.
It's further
Try that
down to
again.
the floor for
Yeah,
you.
I'm 6 foot, nearly 4, so it's a
Yeah.
long
It's
It's a
way
long
from
way
me.
up, long
It
way
is,
down.
yeah.
Let's try that again.
Go on, you got it. You got it. There
Love
you go.
that, Kamal.
Now, what you
Thank
did
you.
already, you did
need a bit more.
already.
You need a bit more.
You did stage 2 already of that one. So actually going down is actually as tough as going
Ah.
up. From standing position now, trying to sit down without using your hands
Okay.
is another challenge.
Right.
Camilla, do you want to give
What,
that a
two
go?
cross leg?
Whatever you
Yeah.
like. Whatever you like. Look at that.
Oh.
That's pretty good.
Camilla, you're good. Okay.
Good stuff. Both of you. So you both passed the test. Both actually managed to do the tests.
Thank goodness.
Didn't use your hands. Didn't so crawl around on the floor somewhere.
Have
trying
you
to get
noticed
up.
that Ashley, the director, is actually laughing at us?
Yeah,
Have you noticed that?
everyone.
Everybody,
She's
everybody,
just-
like we describe as behind the camera, is
She's
having
giving
a good
you
old laugh.
sympathy and love. That's what it is.
Everyone's
But good stuff.
laughing.
What it means, you both have good flexibility around this area, which is vital. If you don't have flexibility here, your chance of actually falling, tripping, actually is significantly higher. If someone's over the age of 65, when you have a fall and break a hip, your risk of dying goes up exponentially. So this is quite an important test to find out, really, where you are in terms of safety.
Matt, is
health,
it
and
worth practicing doing it?
Yes, to practice. The way to go
Yes.
practicing it is, what you've done is great. So your version of going for the outside version is good. You can go inside this way here and do it that way,
Oh,
which
he's
is
good
fine.
at that. Just to say that Matt has just gone from cross-legged straight up into the air.
It's warming up. Or you can go for the easier versions to warm up and get yourself moving, where you sort of cross underneath you, rock forwards onto your knee area, and then roll up and go through
That's
that
more
way
of the
there.
yeah, that
old
one.
person.
Which is a bit more of a
Oh,
practice way to
yes.
get going into it, to get some mobility around your
I'm not going to
hips.
try it, but it looks great.
But you passed your flying colours, both of you, so you're in good shape. Now, test 2, because we're obviously doing so well. I'm going to bring you chairs into shot as well. One chair each. Camilla, put that behind
Is it sit
you
down on a
there.
chair and have a sandwich? 'Cause we're-
Sadly, it's not
I'm
the
really
bacon
good at
sandwich
that.
time,
No,
unfortunately.
okay.
You're not quite there yet. So
So we're getting some chairs in. Thank you, Matt. Each of us has got a chair, sort of like an office chair. But
now, what we need
yeah.
to do here is a single leg sit down. You stand on one leg, and from there, you try and sit down, and then from
Whoa,
there,
not even Matt.
Stand
can
up
do
that
that.
way there.
Matt struggled with
and you
that
try
a
to
little
do a
bit.
squat up and down.
How many of
on the
those are we meant to
single
be
leg.
doing?
Well, we'll start with one,
My God.
Okay,
and then we'll
Camilla,
build
you
from
ready?
there. Let's see what we can do. Very good. Very good. So you're both doing it well. So those listening, they're both squatting on one leg.
It's quite hard to balance.
Try hard to balance, yeah. Well, on a mat, it's quite tough to stand. They're quite sort of
But
a
it's
little
quite
movement
tough
there.
on the feeling a little bit of burn in the old thigh there, Matt.
And thighs is a good thing, though, right?
Yes.
So let's try changing legs. There's always a dominant leg.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah, my
started
left
that on my
leg.
right.
Yeah.
I start on my left.
you-
My left is my dominant
You found the
side.
cheek.
Is it? Are you
Yeah.
Switch.
left-footed?
No, I'm right-footed, but weirdly the left is my dominant side for some reason.
I'm asking you that in football terms.
Now see, my right, I'm not sure I can do on my right.
We're going to have a look and see.
Oh, it's hard.
Yeah, it's a harder slap down. That
Oh.
one.
It's funny to start doing something.
But it
and
shows how
actually-
much you're asymmetric.
Yes.
And we need to work on
Weird.
that balance on both
No,
sides to
that's
make
hard,
sure,
am I right?
much, much harder.
Camilla, do you work out in the gym? You're looking
I
very
do
good.
a bit, yeah.
I think you do a bit.
Look, I've got that reverse body dysmorphia where I think I'm thinner and fitter than I am. You know, most people look in the mirror and they think they see an enormous person. I do quite a lot of fitness, but I never feel I can do enough. That's my problem.
I'm
Like
feeling very old when you
that,
do
we're
that, like a
bombarded,
granddad.
aren't we? Instagram, all of these ideals. I'm often bombarded with images of 50-something-year-old working women who resemble Linda Hamilton in Terminator. And I'm like, how can I be that person? But I can't, because I've got 2 jobs and 3 kids and not enough time to work
Well,
out.
take the
that.
viewpoint that really only 0.01% of people ever will become an athlete, and the other 99.99% won't. And that larger bunch of people are where we focus the attention. How do we feel well? How do we cope with high workloads, family time, other stresses of life? And we're focusing really on being well rather than being body buff. Buff is a side product. That's
Yes.
fine. If you can get to be in great shape, brilliant. That's terrific. Of course it is. If you can achieve running a marathon, if that's your goal, that's fine. If you want to do whatever you're going to do, great. But the key thing is, are you healthy? Are you well? Is your system functioning as it should do? Can you live for not necessarily longer, but can you live every day you're living now to its utmost?
Yes.
So can you maximize? If you're going to live till you're 90 years old, in your 89th year, are you active? Are you fine? Are you mentally okay? And if you are, then you've won.
That's such a good way of putting
I'd
it.
like
because
Matt to come and join me for breakfast every day with some
Little
wonderful
words
points
of the day.
I would rather sort of die at 80 but not have a day where I can't get out and about and do things
It's what we
than
term
live
as-
the last 20 of my years of my life immobile.
It's termed health span. Rather than longevity, it's health span. Health span's about this time that you spend that you're maximizing every day. Longevity's years of life. I'd rather focus on the things we can definitely get right. We don't know if you can live for longer. We think you probably can. We're not quite sure. We know you can live better. And that's what we focus on with all the work that we do, is how we can make sure you're mobile, you're fit, you're healthy, your heart's functioning well, you're digesting well, your gut functions, you've got good microbiome, your core strength is good, and so on and so on and so
Yeah.
on. That's true health, that question.
Okay, what's
Now-
the next embarrassment you're going to put me through?
Well, so far you've passed with flying colours. It's press-up test next.
All right.
Can I
okay.
just
Of
say,
course.
Matt, can I just share this with you? I said to Camilla when we saw some of the scripting for this, I said, I think there was a notion that we might be able to do 11. I said, if I can do 2, I'll be, happy. And Camilla just said to me, oh no, I'm fine up to 30.
Well, do you know what?
That was very impressive.
Press-ups are bloody hard
Yes.
if you're doing a full press-up on your toes, as opposed to, as women are sometimes offered to do it on your knees. And then me
Yeah, we're
being
not
slightly
doing
feminist, I'm
those.
like, I'm not doing it on my
Yeah,
knees.
we're,
just
do,
'cause
we're
I'm
doing
a bird.
grown-up press-ups. and
But I
that's it.
think 30 is ambitious.
So position-wise with this one, and you've got longer levers, so you're going to have a tougher time with this one.
Thank you. That's what I want to hear,
actually
Matt.
does
It's
make it
harder for
worse.
me.
Position-wise here, so you're going to have this, for those listening, hands are just outside shoulder width apart, fingers pointing straight forwards. Your body's straight, feet can be wide apart or close, doesn't matter. And then from there, keep the chest directly over the hands, and you bend the elbows somewhat outwards, down to about 90 degrees the elbows, and then press your way up
I
from
love
there.
how you stay down there, Matt. That's horrendous.
Just for fun, yeah.
I'm on to 3.
So good. So you guys are going well. For those listening, we're about 3 or 4 reps in. And
I
they're
thank
both
you, we're
looking
5.
Good 5.
6 for me.
every rep counts. No competition, guys. It's all good. And breathe, 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 breathe. Breathe out as you're pushing. Breathe in on the way down. Hold the abs really tight. Keep the core really strong. You're looking really
That's
good.
11.
You've done 11
Do we
already.
need
well,
to do more?
you could do more. I mean,
It's
how,
not a challenge.
I'm going to stop there where it's quite graceful.
good plan. Very good.
I think.
Now, the point with that one is it's one of the most old-fashioned exercises you can do. But it's a good test because actually it shows you've got to brace the abdominals, brace the thighs. You're working the upper body in one exercise. And it's a test of, can you again get off the ground? Can you actually use your physical strength in various ways? So it's a basic test, but one's very important. And the numbers on this one, if you can't do one, and you're less than 60 years old, then you should be able to do at least one.
Yeah.
It's definitely a thing as a must do. You should be able to do ideally more than 11 if you're over the age of around 50 years old. So as you get older, you do less, clearly, but should be able to do still some when you're in your 70s and 80s, even just 1 rep. That's all we need to be able to do.
And how regularly should you be doing like a few press-ups, the sitting thing? Is it every day?
You should be active every day. You should be doing some form of resistance type thing whether that's in your home doing squats and doing some sort of form of a press up, or a mixture of things we have already on the Telegraph online. It should be really twice, 3 days a week. You should be working your heart and lungs in some form or other 5 days per week.
So when you say about resistance, do you mean that it's not enough to have racked up 10,000 steps going to work and back?
It's very different. So there's two elements to it, 2 or 3 elements to it. The cardio side has within it 2 or 3 elements actually. So you've got zone 2 cardio, which is this long 10,000 steps, one duration activity. And that's really important for our cellular mitochondria response. It's more the science end of it, but it's actually how we physically burn fatty acids, fat, or glycogen, sugar. And the more effective and efficient we are by doing consistently regular zone 2 cardio, the better we get at burning away.
That's walking.
That's walking. That's walking.
Yep.
It's sat on a bike. It's one speed. It's fast walking. For those who want to know the numbers, it's a heart rate of about 70% of your maximum heart rate.
Yeah.
Your maximum is about 220 minus your age. So
I was going to say, I always know if I'm maxing out, if I'm over 170, I would say the exercise you're talking about is, for me, would be about between 100 and 130. So you're having a conversation, but you might be a little bit like that. When you're above that, you know that you're in the higher zone because you are not maintaining conversation. If you're running, for instance, Big K, if you and I went on a 5K together, I don't think we'd be planning the show cogently. We'd be going, shut up, I can't speak.
Yeah, but the zone 2 thing is exactly right. That thing of being kind of puffing a bit, but not greatly. Beyond that, then, the heavier stuff where you're going for this kind of zone 3, zone 4, which is the higher intensity cardio work, that's great for metabolic responses. So you burn more energy. And you need to have that in the mix as well. So in the course of a week, the zone 2 should be a feature of your week, 3-4 days per week. 40 minutes of that kind of one pace tick along. The higher level stuff, which might be 30 seconds of pushing really hard, say on a bike in the gym, and then resting for 2 minutes and recovering, that should be a feature twice per week. Right. On the resistance side, the weight training side, that can be a gym, which is the best thing for sure, because you can lift heavy loadings. And we do, by the way, need heavy loading. So not for building size. We don't want to have size building. We want strength. Strength is the mainstay of how our body stays upright. It's how we have high metabolism. It's how the nervous system functions well. It's how we choose as a body to burn away the appropriate amounts of sugars and carbohydrates and fats. So we have to have pure muscular strength. Without strength, we are really nothing. So we've got to be lifting heavy. Now, heavy means a thing you can do only 4, 5, 6, 7 times. So for you guys just now, press-ups. It's a heavy load. You've got that small number of reps. It's great. You can do a high repetition exercise like a squat. You might be able to do 30 or 40 of those. With a weight on your shoulders or in your hands in the gym, you might just be able to do 8 or 10. But should be doing the 8 to 10 type stuff once a week for sure. You should be doing the higher rep range things probably once, twice a week as well. Right. So it means doing really 3 resistance workouts, and it's 4 or 5 cardio. But some of those cardios are that easy to achieve.
Easy
zone 2, long stuff. It's not going to the gym. It's just walking the dog.
I'm just doing some maths there, though, Matt. That does seem to be suggesting that we should be working out in some way 7 days a week.
I think we are designed to move on an every single day basis.
So we're back in the studio, Camilla and Matt. We've caught our breath after those exercises. But I think, Matt, what's interesting about all the work that we've done, and do go and look at telegraph.co.uk to look at how to make yourself better in 31 days. There's so much material there. But for us, outside of going to the gym, outside of maybe what you might describe as your fitness routine, are there ways that we can put this into our everyday life? Camilla, you made the point that, you have 2 big roles, here at the Telegraph, GB News. You've got 3 children. Lots of us are always kind of, I'm just too busy. I don't quite have time for that. Or just too tired, yeah. And if I do have any hours spare, I'm going to be sitting with my family rather than going and running up a mountain.
It's a major dilemma for everyone, of course, naturally. I think the key thing I would say is that there are choices in this. You can choose to, it's quite brutal, do it or not do it. And live better or live worse. And it does come down a little bit. I'll caveat that whole thing in a minute. But there is a degree of, we have a duty as a body, as a human being, to look after the system. And if we don't, it just responds by shutting down. So we have to start with the idea that this is almost a non-negotiable. We have to be able to move regularly. We've got to be able to maintain a degree of strength. And I'm not saying this is big gym strength. This is just being strong enough to exist and live your days in life.
Yeah.
We've got to be mobile, and mobility is perhaps, it's not the most important part, but it's one of the most important facets of the whole thing for sure, because without mobility, we do, beyond the age of about, for most women, 45, 50, most guys, probably not dissimilar, suffer. Hormonal changes do affect flexibility, without question. Not just because it affects it physically, but it affects it because we, at that point, females, have been proven through menopause years to do less. We feel like doing less energy, symptomatic issues causing you with less desire to exercise and be active. All understandable, all completely understandable. And therefore, at that time, what can you, at that point, get away with doing as a minimum to ensure that you aren't going backwards then? So I view it that way. It's not a case of we've got to do everything all the time. What's the base level to get away with? And that's not that high a bar. And we touched upon some bits in the gym there. But we have to be active every day in some form. That might be a small thing.
Yes.
That could be going for it could be walk the dog.
Well, this is what I was going to ask you, because do you believe in kind of atomic habits? Sometimes I think perfect is the enemy of the good. You say to yourself, I'm going to do 40 minutes on the treadmill tonight, or I'm going to lift weights for half an hour, and then time gets away with you and you realise you can't do that. Is it all right? Is it just better to do something than nothing? Even if it's a 10-minute, we had in the Telegraph life pieces, actually add in a post-dinner walk. That might not be for an hour. It might be for 20 minutes, but isn't 20 minutes better than nothing?
Yes, exactly right. So the numbers with this really are, if you're looking for, when I'm forming a strategy of someone, and often have done this including film roles, for example, trying to get really in shape for certain things, you have a number of hours to commit to making something happen. It's around 12 hours a week is about the optimum time. We aren't getting so exhausted, you can't do more. Be doing enough to make sure the goals get achieved. That's perfection. People do more. They do 16, 18, 20 hours. Athletes will do a lot more. They'll do 18, 20, 22 hours. But if someone's trying to make a physical change, 12 hours, 13 hours is about the sweet spot. That's a lot of time. So the minimum is about 3 hours per week. And that breaks down as being, if it's every day, it's around half an hour, roughly, somewhere there. So it's not that much to ask. And yes, the post-dinner walk has been proven to help to reduce fat lipid levels in the bloodstream, to regulate blood sugar levels. It's a bit of an easy go-to without question. It forms part of that zone 2 conversation. It's getting the heart to go to a level where you're slightly out of breath, you're getting a slight little sweat on, but not very much. It's sustainable, and it's not that long. Ideally, it's 40 minutes, but if you're doing 20 minutes, half an hour, it's certainly better than nothing. It ticks only one box, though. It ticks the cardio box, doesn't tick the strength box. We do have to assess and address the strength work in someone's routine each week to ensure that there isn't dilapidation. And it happens quickly. The problem is that when you're in your 20s and you're super active, or you're at university, or you're at your first job, and you have some time, and you're going to the gym, or playing some sport, we have this muscle mass that we have and we sustain and we look after without thinking about it. As time goes by, we just start to lose it unless we really look after that. Now, the average male, for example, Kamal, to address you on this one, we sadly, from the age of around about 40, lose 10% of our muscle mass every decade.
I've really noticed that. I don't know, Camilla, maybe you're too young, but I've certainly noticed in my 50s, you literally feel yourself getting weaker.
This is
you start, no, but I think, Matt, you're making the right point, that you have to then exercise to keep yourself at that same ability that you would have had naturally a decade earlier.
Well, this is where weights come in, because I think in the old days, you used to associate weights with something that Arnie would lift.
That's right.
Whereas now, I mean, if you went on that after dinner walk and you happened to take 2 light dumbbells with you, that might be a bit of progress on the resistance front, Matt. I don't know.
It gives you a bit of an extra, it probably more gives you, slightly yes, gives you more of a lift on some cardio side, to be harder cardio. Better than doing nothing at all, perhaps. I'd rather focus people on the resistance side, a few very easy to do things at home if you need to, for sure, to make it quick and simple, to ensure there are specific things you do to be stronger. Now, the key parts of the body to be physically better are the thighs, the hamstrings, your butt, your chest, and your back. It's probably 5 key areas. To make each one of those get worked is not that hard to do. So doing a squat. If you can't do a squat because your knees are sore, let's say people have bad knees, do a wall sit, that classic one where you sit against the wall, knees bent, hold the position, let the thighs start to burn. When they start to burn, hard, then stop, reset and do something else. But that sort of way of testing your thighs is one example. Doing squats is great. Doing squats with weights is great. Doing your glutes, doing your butt is vital. A weak butt actually is one of the key causes of lower back pain. So if your glutes are stronger, and that's very simple, you lay on the floor, feet on the ground or on a bench or a chair, lift your body, your butt off the ground, so you're tensing your glutes, the glute muscles, lift up and down in that same way, 10, 15, 20, 30 times, get that burn feeling in the glutes, and then get the next exercise, which might be the lovely press up we did before, so that kind of thing for the chest and for the triceps. So you can do home things very quickly and easily. It might take you only 10, 15 minutes, not long.
Also, one other thing I was going to ask on behalf of women of a certain age, I've often seen, admittedly on Instagram, that it's good to hop and jump for bone health. That strikes me as slightly counterintuitive if you might be suffering from osteoporosis to be jumping around the place because you don't want to be falling over and breaking hips. But what is this thing about jumping and hopping, Matt?
So actually, I've got a bone clinic in one of my clubs in Knightsbridge, and we do bone scanning and we do bone building. Hopping, creating bone trauma is the best thing for creating bone strength. You're trying to create more calcium depositing back in the bone again. And to do that, it only knows a few things. It knows pressure bone. It needs to have pressure. So you lift the thing. When you're squatting with a weight in your hands, for example, you're applying pressure to the muscles attached to the tendons, attached to the bones. The bones know trauma. That's what they're feeling. And with that trauma, they lay down more calcium. How else do you create trauma? You jump. When you land, that whack on the floor as you're landing, yes, sounds very counterintuitive, but that trauma it creates has these small micro traumas which create calcium deposits, make the bone get stronger. People should not be afraid. If they've been tested and they are in the osteopenic zone, not quite osteoporotic, then they should be doing hopping without question. They should be doing small jump squats. They should play some sports like tennis, involves some running. If they're in osteoporosis phase at a level of more than, say, minus 2.5 for those that know their numbers on this, then you'd look to try and make sure you get bone strengthening work specifically before doing that work. But for most people who are in the early phase osteopenia, then doing hopping is brilliant. And it's an at-home thing. Skipping is great for bone health.
Yes.
Really good.
Should we move on a bit to food?
Yes.
We've had a lot about exercise directly, but food, some of the things that we've been covering as part of the Telegraph Life work that's on telegraph.co.uk is make your breakfast protein heavy, substantial protein-based breakfast. That includes things like omelette, maybe, vegetables, half an avocado, berry smoothies, etc. I'm sure we have those every morning, do we, Camilla?
I'd love to do that every morning, but sometimes time is a problem
Maybe
for
we'll
me.
get a chef for the podcast. Fill at least half your plate with greens. I think that's a really good one. I must admit, my partner is very insistent on this. So last night we had spinach and sweet potato alongside our kind of main kind of meat bit of the meal, and that is always something that we try and do. And then aim for 4 alcohol-free days per week, which is probably about right. But how vital is food and diet as part of this better you idea?
Vital, absolutely vital. You can't expect to have change by doing one facet alone. If you're just exercising, you're not optimizing. If you're just dieting and optimizing, doing it all together is really important. In terms of the way you construct your day on the eating, I don't want people to get too hung up on the macros. The macros, the numbers of the breakdowns of proteins, carbs, and fats you should be consuming can be confusing. I think that one thing they should focus on without question is the protein, though, because most females' protein, but males too, is low. And we need to have more, and not in kind of a weird, psychotic bodybuilder protein thinking way, but we do need to have protein. We've got to rebuild our cells all the time. And in terms of the numbers on this one, always like numbers on these things, per kilo of body weight, you should be consuming around between 1.3 and 1.5 grams of protein.
1.3, let me just calculate that, because I don't mind telling people how much I weigh. I think I'm 62 kilos, right? So what does that mean then, Matt? How much protein should I be having?
Around 80, 85 grams a day.
But that's quite a lot, isn't it? Isn't that
Yeah,
like
yeah.
a couple of eggs, a chicken breast, spinach? Should I be? What do we think about taking these protein powders and collagen?
So, in terms of what the food looks like first, it's a bit more than that actually. An egg is around 8, a chicken breast is about 20. So it's a lot of food. It adds up. Yeah, so it does. And the people get horrified by the numbers, but the point is that with diet isn't about restriction. Diet is about fueling you, feeding you and fueling you. You've got to make sure we're giving you plenty of good carbs, the right fiber intake. And the point about the greens on the plate and the sweet potatoes is absolutely spot on. We are so low in fiber intake as a nation. We have to really radically increase it. But the protein, I'd say, is the key focus. Good, clean protein. Ideally, we should be having a good blend of great fish. We should be having organic chicken. Don't get the rubbish chicken. Please go and buy. I know it's a bit more expensive, but buy the organic chicken because it's not full of, it's full of goodness rather than nothingness. And we should be having red meat occasionally. Red meat is very good for you occasionally. Lots of good iron and vitamin B in there. So we've got to have more than we think. And that probably means for most people, by having that degree of protein, you won't have as much of everything else. So what we should be avoiding having, as we all know, is processed foods. Our liver specialist, Dr. Gareth Morris, he says right now, in all the scans that he's doing on livers and as a liver surgeon, the number one thing that goes wrong with livers now is processed foods, not alcohol.
Yes.
And that's staggering. We think, well, alcohol, how damaging alcohol actually is. We'll come back to that alcohol in a second too. We got to focus on going away from any processed foods. It's got to be things that we, take a bit more time in doing. But, it's not that complicated. Doing some vegetables, steaming some veg, you're putting some sweet potatoes in the oven, having that with a really nice piece of fish or some chicken or a nice piece of steak. Not complicated. Yes, a bit more time, a bit more input, but genuinely saves your life. And it really is vital. And we need to make sure that we do start the day with something good. We do need to have breakfast in almost all cases for almost all people, females in particular. It's important to have a blend of protein and carbs in the morning. So porridge oats, for example, simple solution, really easy, some berries on there, all great, to make sure we get this raising your fiber level, give you carbs that you need and protein for rebuilding. And then you get the gut to start to function super well early on. And you then regulate your blood sugar throughout the longer part of the day. And your body's in a much more efficient fat burning state for more hours. So
I'm just wondering, Matt, say over Christmas, when somebody puts a bowl of Doritos in front of you, or even maybe a packet of Haribo, do you just go, no? I mean, we can treat
sometimes you have to
ourselves
enjoy life. Yes,
occasionally.
Camilla, you do sometimes.
Matt, do you? When's the
not
last time
either
you
or.
ate a Dorito, Matt?
Oh, I have snack food regularly.
Oh, right. This is good
Did you
to
see
know.
that
Mind
amazing
you,
fact?
Matt is burning 15,000 calories a day.
Did you see that amazing fact from, I think it was the Tesco Club Card, that now more people buy the boiled egg in a pot than have a packet of crisps. So we are hearing the message that we actually need some things that are slightly better for us than maybe we would have done.
Why people can't
in
boil
the
their
past.
own
I
eggs
know.
and take them to
Very
work
good
rather
point.
than paying £2 for an egg?
Two
God only
slightly
knows.
unusual things which I hadn't particularly thought of and don't sound particularly wonderful, but are in part of our coverage. One is to drink a hot cup of vegetable water, maybe the water you've left over from boiling your peas or broccoli.
This
Probably
is
not
from
the tastiest
Xanthi
thing.
Clay, our Christmas
Xanthi,
contributor.
Yeah. Xanthi Clay has written about this. And then the other one is eat an apple, core and all. I find people who eat apples core and all, I'm going to admit that my partner does this with pears, slightly odd.
Are they psychopaths? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying it's
Yeah.
a bit odd.
Well,
But you should eat
on
the
the-
core, should you? Just chew it up with all
Well,
the
you
pips.
can. I mean, I'd say if anything on an apple or a pear, apples in particular, eat the skin.
Oh, yes.
The
Yes,
skin
you must eat
has,
the skin.
yeah, the skin has huge amounts of really good microbiomes into it and good enzymes. So that's good to have for sure. The core is more of a taste thing, I think, actually. But
Crunchy.
again, it's all about having a variety of foods. Actually, to be honest, it's more a variety of fruits, a variety of plant-based foods. And we shouldn't be plant-based only. We should be having tons of things in there. But do have foods where you eat the whole thing. They're grown in a certain way. If you, I don't know, cook a turnip, it's a turnip. You've got to eat the whole thing. So whatever you have because the skin has in any fruit or vegetable, it's there for a reason. Okay, don't eat the orange peel. But most things are there to make sure they've got good fiber. There are other vitamins in that part. There are minerals. There are microbiome. agitators. There's a whole bunch of good stuff when you buy good quality fruit and vegetables. So yeah, those things are good. I wouldn't go for the core. It's a bit
I
tough.
love an orange. Sometimes if you are wanting to avoid having something sweet in the evening and you just peel and eat a very nice fresh orange, it's actually lovely.
Can I just share one other thing? Our managing editor here, the wonderful Ben Clisset, had a meeting with him yesterday. He got out, peeled a grapefruit like it was an orange and just ate the grapefruit like that.
I would put him on a par with the core eaters. Can we get onto the psychological side of things? I would like to ask you both whether you know how to perform a physiological sigh.
I don't.
Kamal, could you try?
A physiological sigh?
Yeah. Matt?
I imagine it's probably something like a...
Yes, it is a bit like that. Well, I say yes. It sounds to me like it should be like that. 2 very sharp inhales through the nose. In fact, Kamal, you do this while I tell you. So ready? 2 very sharp inhales through the nose. Slow breathe out, making an R-ing sound to slow your heart rate. Just a few.
I can start singing also.
No, please
stop
don't,
that.
because that will raise my heart rate. Just a few is enough to calm anxiety, but repeating this several times throughout the day will help to promote a better sleep at night, reduce overall stress, encourage relaxation and enhance mood, except not of the people around you. Also, we can block racing thoughts apparently with the. Anyone know what this is?
This is fascinating. Do go through it with us, Camilla.
When trying to get off to sleep or waking up in the early hours, try repeating the over and over again in your head.
I'm going to report back after the weekend, literally on this test.
And also, I don't know, maybe this is one for Matt actually, because I'd imagine as a personal trainer, you're probably party to the innermost and most intimate details of your clients' lives. This is the advice. Ask your friends direct questions. When someone is playing the victim and expects a solution from you, you should try this, Matt. How are you planning to handle that? Or if you're dealing with a negative oversharer, which again, I would imagine, Matt, I can't lose weight, I'm not fit enough, will you help me? You're meant to turn around, Matt, and say, that sounds challenging, but what's going well for you?
It sounds like marriage counselling. Yeah, look, I think that how we nuance the ways in which we express our innermost thoughts, most how you then defend your own energy as well is important. I think it comes to you naturally, though. I think trying to actually shoehorn these things into your life maybe isn't always the easiest thing. And I think making lists of goals is always funny because the last one is generally don't make any goals for the year. So there should be a certain degree of just flexing these things. I would say, however, you've got to watch out for people who are your saboteurs around you. There's no doubt at all that someone who comes at you negatively, whether it's on a diet side or exercise side or anything else, frankly, they can often come at you to make sure that you're not doing well because they feel better for not doing well as well. And that's quite a big thing to watch out as a big red flag for sure.
I tell you what we can conclude. Bar your horrific experience with your personal trainer 17 years ago.
I'm going to hire Matt now, obviously.
I will say this for exercise. Once you get into it and you do it, there is no greater feeling than having completed something, especially when you've done it against your own kind of inner monologue, saying, oh, you'd rather watch the telly. For instance, last night I did do one of my incline walks. God, I was moaning about it beforehand. But once I'd done 30 or 40 minutes, I actually was really pleased with myself. So it is uplifting, Matt, isn't it? It's good for mental health.
So the way that I always say to people to look at this stuff, and I look at it myself on a daily basis, trying to do everything that I work on the exercise side in particular, is that it's a privilege to be able to. Because if you couldn't do those things, that would be so much worse. So you've got to make sure that every single thing that you do, remember, it's a privilege, not a right. And you earn it.
Love this, Matt. Now, Matt, just before we leave this part of the podcast and your brilliant advice, did you make any New Year's resolutions? And if you did, are you able to share them?
I can share them. Yeah, I can actually. So my goal this year, I had I injured a foot about 3-4 years ago, which has been nagging me on and off. My own worst enemy in not getting it seen at the time soon enough. I broke a bone, I tore a ligament, and so on and so on. I love to run. So for me, running is a big deal, and I adore it. So I'm back to doing a 10K under 40 minutes this year is my plan. So that's the intention. So it's kind of performance-driven one.
That's horribly fast.
That is fast.
quick.
What's the quickest you've ever run a 10K?
A 10K, about 4:10 per K. So
Yeah,
that would be
it's
just
good
over 40
going.
minutes. But that,
Yeah.
no, hold on,
Ooh,
hold on,
that's
everybody.
good.
This was literally in my early 40s.
Yes.
I would nowhere near be able to hit that now. And to
so
be
hard.
honest, getting to a 10K now is harder work
It's bad
for me.
for the knees,
It's
perhaps.
very bad
It's
for the knees, I say.
But yeah, I think
Now-
I once hit 49. That's my best. I couldn't get to 40.
great.
My goodness.
It's great.
I could not get anywhere near under 50 minutes anywhere now. But anyway,
Matt, thank you
Matt,
for
yes.
just sharing all of your wisdom and insights, because it is reassuring to know that as well as exercising 7 days a week, you do occasionally have a Dorito.